Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Song Revolution. Get ready to ramp up your songwriting. Hey everybody, John back with another edition of Song Revolution. So glad that you're here. I just want you to know that I value you, your time, the fact that you would take a little time out of your day to hang out with me here at Nashville Christian Songwriters, who sponsors Song Revolution. We've been doing the show since 2017. There's a tremendous archive of past episodes that I hope that you'll go back and check out. It's like a college education in songwriting and building the kind of ministry that God's put on your heart. So we're in Season 3. This is the month of March, and all this month, if you're following along with the NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge Guide, you know that we're talking all this month about finding your mission as a Christian songwriter and artist. It's been a fun month. We've had a great time. We've dropped a lot of love, a lot of content on you this month that I hope if you missed any of it, go back and check it out. You don't want to miss that. And keep following along with the Songwriting Challenge Guide. This is a tremendous year. Just think where you could be at the end of this year if you continue to add knowledge and skills to your songwriting. You know, you're called. We know that, and we're called to help. Well, I have on the show today one of my favorite human beings on the whole planet. I've gotten to know this incredible young lady over the last few years. She came through our NCS Song Mastery program. I almost forgot the name of my own coaching program. She came through my program. She did the artist development program. And now Anya Lee Alexander, just goes by Anya Lee, is cranking out some great music. I've had the privilege of working with her over the last couple of years as basically an A&R director and executive producer, and just having a lot of fun watching as God blesses her career. So all the way from the Upper Peninsula, the last exit before you hit Canada, Anya Lee, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you back.
I'm very excited to be here.
You've been driving down, and it's like, I can't even believe that
Yes.
You drive down from basically Canada.
Pretty much.
How long does it take you? And every time you leave, there's a blizzard.
And every time I leave, there's a blizzard. It's usually about 14 hours, and it depends on, how many times that you stop or have to stretch your legs, but it's usually about 14 hours.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, we're glad you make the drive, and this is the second time you've been down this year.
Yes.
Making music. We connected you with a producer named Gregatron.
Yep.
And Greg has been producing some of your singles, and then we've worked with Kobe James on two, actually, your Christmas One Wish, and then your January single Back Again.
That's right.
Which is so much fun. But yeah, well, I'd like to talk in a little while about the impact that NCS coaching has had on your life, and really dig into the music. But before we go there, you have such an incredible story. I tell your story a lot, actually. So why don't you just kind of open up some of the background on how you even came to really dig into making your music for the Lord?
Yeah. I'm a pastor's kid. I'm a PK. And so I've always helped with worship and music. And I kind of thought in the back of my mind that I wanted to do music at some point, just didn't know how to do that. So as I got older, I had a lot of health issues. And after one of them, I had major surgery. And part of my recovery was this dream to hike the Appalachian Trail. I wasn't going to do it as the full hike. That takes about 6 months, and it's very nerve-wracking. But I was going to do a section hike. A family friend said that she was going to go for 3 months, so we timed it that I would start the first about week with her. And so this was part of my healing, part of my recovery, part of, getting life back on track and figuring out exactly what I was going to do. And we hiked, and I can't remember exactly which day it was. It kind of ran together, but the partner decided that I was taking too long and slowing her down, so she decided to leave. And
just leave you by yourself.
Yes.
On the trail.
On the trail. And I did have my dog with me, my dog at the time. But I knew I was feeling unwell. I knew that I was having pain that I couldn't really identify. And when she decided to leave, I felt that I was in a bit of distress. So that morning, we parted ways. I say that to say that she left. And I grabbed my gear and my dog, and I walked to, when you go to a national park, there are places where you can drive in and park, and you're like less than a quarter mile from like a scenic overlook or something like that. And so I walked far enough to find one of those locations, and I sat down, and I got really cold. So I pulled out my emergency blanket, wrapped that around the dog, and I pulled out my sleeping bag, wrapped that around me. And a couple of ladies drove up, and they were just there for the scenic overlook. And I found out later that they were going to stop at the one before. They weren't even going to stop at the one where I was, but the woman driving just said, well, let's just take the next one. So we spoke for a moment, and they went to look at the overlook, and by the time they came back, I had died. And they found me and my dog and grabbed all my gear and put me in the car. And I remember kind of waking up a little bit in the vehicle, and then I was gone again, and then I woke up in the hospital. And
can we back up one little sec? You said that so flippantly, and I died, but really?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How long you saw them and said hi. How long was the time difference between that moment and the time they discovered you?
Well, speaking to the woman who was driving, she said that it was, and apparently I had warned them that it was windy, like where they were heading, there was a tree break. And so it had been cold that night. It had snowed a little bit. The winds had picked up ferociously. And so part of my diagnosis was that, I had some hypothermia. So they weren't really dressed for it. So they went to look at the overlook and just decided we're good and came back. So they weren't gone for very long, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes at the most.
Wow.
So in the time that they left and came back, I had expired.
So what was going on besides hypothermia? Hypo.
It was hypothermia. And so I had frozen a bit. I was dehydrated. But the reason I was dehydrated was because I had a severe case of rhabdomyolysis. So basically, my body was creating creatine too quickly for it to process. And that's what happens when your muscles break down, when you're doing more exertion than your body's used to. So it happens a lot in athletes. I was not an athlete, but I was trying to push to keep up with somebody moving at a further pace, and I was carrying a heavy pack and all of those things. So I basically just worked my body to death. And when I died, I definitely had an experience. And then waking up in the hospital, I woke up with what felt like a mandate. So I guess I can tell you a little bit about my experience.
Yeah. So because I know you pretty well at this point, and so you had been, as I understand it, been kind of procrastinating, putting off making your music, until this moment or this time. How did you know that God was calling you to that?
I think in a way I've always kind of known, but I'm a very behind the scenes type of person, and I don't like to attract a lot of attention, which is, one of the ways that my father says that God has a sense of humor, because music ministry is always where I've been tugged, and that's not something that you can do from behind a curtain. So I've always known that there was something there, and I put it in my own box. Well, if I serve on Sunday and maybe Wednesday night and at, tent meetings and all these other things, then I decided that was enough. That was my mistake.
You decided.
I decided.
God.
I did that, yes.
Let me tell you, God, I've just decided. Wow. I did. So there you are, frozen to death, all of that on the trail. They scooped you up, you and your dog, and whisked you away to a hospital. And can you describe, I know I'm kind of going backwards just a little bit, but it's just a fascinating story, and since meeting you, I actually know 2 other people now that have had NDEs, and so they're fairly common actually, but it's still not so common that it's not fascinating. But so as you were coming to, did you hear a voice? What was that kind of, strange metaphysical, supernatural part like? 'Cause we all want to know.
And from what I understand, it's different for everybody. People have very tactile experiences. Some it's just something that they hear or they feel. So everyone is a little bit different. But I remember it happened in two parts. It was very clear. So the first time, I was sitting there, and I felt kind of like when you're in a dream and you feel like you're falling. So I felt I was sitting on the ground, on the gravel, and I kind of felt like I was falling. And I remember someone called my name multiple times, and everything kind of went like a grayish. And I remember my head went down and then it went back up, and I looked around, and I was at this place where you would park for a scenic overlook. So I could look all around me, 360, and see, the trail that was coming up and where people would hike over there. And there was nothing around me, but clear as day, my name had been called multiple times. And then I had a very clear moment where I thought to myself, so I'm going to be on the news because they found my body. Like I knew that something bad was coming. Oh my
gosh, that's amazing.
And I'm not 100% sure if that's when I texted my father, but I know I took a picture. So I have a picture on my phone of myself making kind of a sad face, and I knew that could be the last picture on my phone. So I've never deleted that. So I have that photo. And then the next photo on my phone is me taking a picture of the double IV drip that they had and me full bore bringing me back. But so then that was the first thing, was that I heard my name very clearly. It was evident. Someone was talking to me. It was booming. It was loud. It got my attention. And I kind of snapped back to where I was, and things came back to regular color. And then I was out. And I remember everything came alive. It was so bright, and the first thing that I could see was this field of green, and it's very difficult to explain because every texture was wrong. Like, it looked like grass. It clearly wasn't grass. It could have been crystals, or it could have been something else, but this field of green and kind of a structure in the distance that I couldn't make out. And then I heard people talking, and it was very clear that I knew they were talking. I knew those were words, but it sounded like laughter and chimes. That's the only way I can describe it, is just like children's laughter and chimes. But it was words, and I knew that they were speaking words. And so that was behind me, and it wasn't anything that in that moment I was able to kind of turn around and look. I just knew that there was a large number of people behind me, and they were speaking in this way. It was very peaceful. It was very happy. It was very...
So you weren't in horrible pain. You weren't suffering. You were chill.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't cold anymore.
No pun intended.
Yeah. No, it's true. Everything just kind of fell away. And I remember just looking around, trying to take it all in. And there was something like in the air, and it was kind of like when you look at bubbles and they're iridescent and they have those beautiful little rainbows in it, that was in the air between me and the grass. Me and what was beyond me was this beautiful iridescent kind of sheen that was moving. So then as I'm standing there and I'm looking off in the distance at these structures, especially like the very large one, it appeared that the structure was moving closer to me. I didn't feel like I was moving. My little points on the ground didn't feel like they were moving, but the structure felt like it was coming toward. And then in that moment, I felt something behind me that was very, very large and very, very strong. And I didn't turn around to see it. But the only thing I could equate it to is that moment when you know that you're about to see a loved one, whether it's a parent or a grandparent or something, and they put their arms out and you feel that magnet that's drawing you into that loved one. And I felt that coming from behind me. And it was huge, and it was warm, and it was welcoming. And then right before the contact, I woke up. And I woke up, I think it was in the first emergency room. I'm not 100% sure because I was still really fuzzy, but.
Amazing. Well, that really must change you. How has it changed the way that you live and ultimately the way you think about the end of your natural life?
The way I live, when I was in the emergency room when I was recovering and waiting for my father to show up. It's very hard to explain, but the only way to really say it is that I immediately had this insatiable hunger in me to do something with my music. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what first steps to take. I didn't know any of that. All I knew was I had to do something. And it sat there in the center of me, just being ravenous for a couple of days. And then I pulled out my guitar and I just started playing, and it kind of decreased a little bit. And then I was writing in my little music journal, and it decreased a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is very clear. This is very clear that I should be doing something intentional, moving in this direction. And that's when I went back through my notebook and I saw a little Facebook ad, and I somehow stumbled.
Here we are.
Somehow stumbled upon you. And what's wild is the note in my notebook was from almost exactly 2 years prior, when I had seen something, I'm not sure where, about Nashville Christian songwriters. And I looked at it and said, oh, that's something I should look into when I have the time, when I have the finances, all the excuses, because there was... So I found it in there.
Or maybe the day I die and come back, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
put a
gosh.
note. Yeah.
That is so fascinating. So when you do think about the end of your natural life, is there fear? Is there joy? Do you look forward to it? How would you help us who have not experienced what you have?
I don't have any fear. I'm kind of excited because there's so much that was behind me that I wasn't able to see. And if being in awe of what I was able to see, which was something like grass and something like air and something like structures, and that made me so calm and comforted and joyful, I'm just excited to see all the rest of it and experience it.
Wow. Well, I know from having worked with you over the last couple of years and walking with you into the results of what God was doing on the inside of you through this experience. I know the fruit of that, and it's just such a joy to be able to participate in that. And so when we come back, I want to unpack some of that, the music that you're currently making and how God is continuing to use you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, guys, we'll be right back. So I want to talk with you for a moment about joining NCS community and fulfilling everything God's put in your heart before you have to die to do it. What would it feel like to have 52 weeks of access to the right people in Nashville? People who've been making music for decades. People who can answer every question that you have about what pro-level music making is all about. Well, you can get that and more by joining NCS Community. Our community is a group of worldwide dedicated Christian songwriters who want what you want, to glorify God with your gifts and to get your music out there. I hope that you'll consider joining NCS Community today. All right, so we're back with Anya Lee. As I said, she's just one of the most fascinating, funniest, and fun favorite people in my life. And it's always a privilege to hang out with Anya, to make music, and to be able to be part of facilitating God's call on her life. So in the first half, you shared this incredible near-death experience. That's always such a funny thing because you died. So why do they say near-death? I don't know. They just try to figure out how to not scare us all to death. I don't know what it is. It's just near-death. It's not real death. It's just near-death. But it's just so fascinating to me. And when I talk about your story, first of all, when I say, this is Anya Lee, this is an artist that we're working with, but she died on the Appalachian Trail, everybody goes, what? And I'm like, no, like that was in 2019 and God brought her back.
She's
and
okay
they're
now.
Like, what? So, but yeah, so help the folks listening today. You mentioned that even a couple of years before the NDE, you had come across Nashville Christian Songwriters and thought, oh, maybe someday I'll do that. But when you came back, you felt this serious compulsion, imperative, call, whatever, to really follow through and do something. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I remember very clearly the first time saying to myself, okay, well, I need to do something. So the first thing I have to do is all of my research. I have to find it. I have to figure it out.
That's
I have
you.
to set up the
Very
absolutely.
thorough.
That's what I do. So I'm looking at all these steps and these options and things, and I remember landing on NCS, and I'm not sure if it was through Facebook or just from a search. I'm not really sure how I came upon it, but I thought, okay, that's a system, and I'm looking for a system. So now I'm just going to put it away till I have enough time, till I'm serious, till all these other things. And then coming back to it and connecting and saying, okay, I think I want to do this now. There's something not only comforting, but efficient and effective by having a system. So just from the first time speaking with you and, looking at the information on the website and seeing that there's something I can dig my teeth into, and it's not just going to be abstract and feelings. It's a system. And that really drew me in. That made me very interested, and I felt comfortable almost immediately. And as somebody who likes to be on the back burner kind of and behind the scenes, I thought that doing a group course would be the end of me. Not a fan of group projects. Again, the system. I want to do the system. I want to work it. I want to get it out and not rely too heavily on other people. But the experience of the group course was far better than anything I could have expected it to be. A little bit surprising, and really developed stuff in me that I didn't even know were the things that I should be working on. So that was hook, line, and sinker. I was done at that point. I was in.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think you touched on some wonderful points, because songwriters, and I don't know if it's especially Christian songwriters, but probably Christian songwriters who feel inspired by God to write often think that, well, just the way they wrote it is the way
Right.
God intended it.
Absolutely.
How did you overcome that kind of thinking?
There is such comfort in knowing that you have a long history in this field, and that anything you and your staff share with us is completely out of love. It's completely from a place of whatever we have maybe been inspired by the Lord, the Holy Spirit drop something on our plate. It doesn't mean that couldn't use refinement. It doesn't mean that there isn't something that can be adjusted where the message you're trying to send is spoken in a language that more people can receive. I love my words. I love strange, words. I love my words. And not everybody receives words the way I put them out. So having someone that says, this idea that you were given, that's fantastic. Let's go with that. But let's make it palatable to more people. That is invaluable. And as long as you go into that understanding, you didn't get some tablets from a mountaintop that God said, this is done. You didn't. We don't get that. We don't get that. And if you go in with a heart understanding that, then everything that you and your team does for us is so easy to just take it and consume it and roll with it.
That's so interesting you say that, even about the systems, because I don't think of myself as a systems guy. I've always been the gregarious class clown, fly by the seat of my pants. Yes, ma'am. My pants are all worn out because I fly by them way too much. Really, I'm being dragged along the ground on my rear ends while right was happening. But over these years of developing the curriculum and how we coach, God's just required it of me. I don't know how to say it. It became my mandate to really bring into, to codify. Is that a good word?
I love that.
Do you like that
Yes,
word? Like to kind of,
Perfect.
bring a system, which is so weird. I wrote the Song Builder's Blueprint, which was the course that you went through.
So
and
good.
it brings a rationale, not for just every section in a song, but for every line. Like, what's line 1 in a song supposed to be? And then how does that relate to line 2? And how does line 3 relate to line 2 and line 1? And I didn't know I knew that stuff until I started trying to capture it and share it. And so it's amazing to me that was attractive to you, that was something that would speak to how you view the world and your style, your preferences, and so I think that's really awesome. So you came through the NCS Pro Song Mastery Program, did our group, 8-week group, and then we started talking about maybe you working with us through the Artist Development Program, and we did that. Was that just last year? Was that just last year?
Just last year.
Talk about that, and was it scary to invest at that level? Because it is our highest, investment program, and how have you found? I'm not trying to just make this like a big old commercial for us. Okay, maybe a little, but you're such a poster child. You're just like the screaming best example of what we do, because we're watching as you blossom and flourish with the things we're teaching, and now tens of thousands of people are streaming your music and loving it, and it's a whole deal. So, how did it feel to invest at that level, and then what's your experience been to get to where you are now a little over a year later?
The investment was only a little bit scary because, and I know it's going to sound extremely odd, but what if it works? What if I'm going to invest the finances, the time, the trust? What if I'm going to go all in and then suddenly my life is very different? That was probably scarier than anything else. Money comes and goes, and sometimes it's very difficult for it to come in. But when I say that insatiable hunger in me is only relieved when I'm actively pursuing, when I'm actively engaging, I know that it sounds strange, but it's 100% true. So investing definitely satisfied that. And again, more systems, more exposure to people that I needed to be exposed to, having, homework every week to keep me on track and make sure I was doing what I needed to do was just fantastic. It's exactly what I needed. But the investment fear came from, what if this goes somewhere? So
it wasn't like, what if I'm wasting the money? It was more like, what if this works? Wow. No one's ever said that. I think that is a first, and that's amazing. I love hearing that, right? And things are different.
Yes.
Things are changing, and it's you're expressing yourself at a whole other level. You have this network of producers and co-writers and people that really it's your team. You've built your team to where you feel more supported.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think is what would be like the number one aha about songwriting itself, now that you've been doing co-writes with Gregatron, Phoebe Scott, me, Kobe James, and some other folks? You've been doing some writing over at Curb Word Music. And so what's been the biggest aha in this whole process for songwriting specifically?
The biggest aha.
About the process, because you had your own process. I mean, you loved your words, and
I love my words.
You would do some home production, and I was always amazed with how you were thinking about chord structures and vocal parts. They were very, very unique. Some of them, I know that we've retained some of that, even in the master level productions. But how has that process been, and are there any big eye-opening moments?
It's interesting to see how different people attack the problem, like where people start from. Some folks are like, we got to get the chorus and that's where we got to start. And some folks are like, okay, let's sit down and take that thought and let's pull it completely apart. What's every word, every sound, every nuance that you can think of, and then now let's pull that together and start a thing. Some folks are like, what are a few songs that are in your mind right now that you love, and let's kind of be inspired by the sound and see where that takes us with the word. So it is interesting how everyone is getting to the same end result, but sometimes it's just that very beginning part that's a little bit different. And then once we get over that initial hump, then we're all pretty much doing the same thing, the same methods, the same process, the same end result, but not everybody starts exactly at the same point. So it's wonderful to have those experiences with different people, because then when I'm home alone and I'm stumped, I can grab my notes and be like, okay, so how did that go with Kobe? Like, what did we do? And then when I was at Curb, how did they, and at home, I can attack the problem from a slightly different starting point if I'm stuck. So that's been interesting.
That's very cool. Very well said. And as a pro writer, I know exactly what you mean. Some people can start with a top line and then they wind up at this incredible chorus. I'm not built like that. I'm a chorus first guy. And, the OBI, the one big idea, top line of your chorus, and how are you going to use that hook? I'm old school Gaither like that, and that's just kind of how I am. But I know a lot of people do it very differently. And what do you feel about your song output? As in, are you writing faster? Do you feel like the sessions go faster than maybe you would on your own historically? Or
absolutely, yeah. And I think part of that is the confidence. Folks have experience and they're confident in what they're doing. And then there's this understanding that when the session's done, that's not necessarily investing to say that you're done. That could also mean that, we're going to come back to this and polish and do all those other things. So faster, but the confidence for sure.
Speaking of confidence, you are a very different person than a year ago. And you are so funny because you're like, well, I don't want to be out front and I don't want to do this. And, oh my gosh, you're going to put me on a podcast and all that. But your confidence is so strong and just who you are as a human, the energy, the spirit of God, the energy that's coming out of you as just an incredible woman of God. And now a burgeoning artist, and you're getting a lot of love and affirmation. People that encounter your music they're really digging it,
Awesome.
How do you feel about that? I know you're always like, oh, I just want to run screaming from here, but no. Yeah. But do you feel more confident having gone through what you've gone through, not only your NDE, but our programs and now where you are launching a career?
I would say in the process of songwriting, where that's concerned, I do feel more confident in having a voice, in working through the problem, in bringing something to life. I do feel more confident in that aspect. I think after having, there's this thing, something can happen in my life, and I'm like, okay, but is it going to kill me? Like, am I going to die? No. So I can do that thing. But
the bar has been set.
You're not literally die? No? Okay, I'm good. But there's still a very big part of me that, wants to hide, but the understanding that I need to say yes is bigger. So the emotions and the fact that I want to be far, far away have not gone away, but the ability to say, okay, but you're doing it. That's another yes. God's giving you opportunities to say yes, and nothing is wasted. So you're just going to do it. So that's been interesting to have that tug of war that I think that's intentional, that God didn't take away my fear and my trepidation, but he just made the ability to say yes and do the thing stronger. I think that was very intentional.
That is so powerful to me because we all have some level of anxiety and fear, even day to day, whether it's a conversation with a spouse or disciplining a child or having a conversation with a boss that you're not really happy to have, or just even the conversations in our own brain, So thank you so much for just living into this second chance to fulfill what God really had put in your heart, but you were afraid to do. We love you for that, and we're very grateful. So, Anya Lee, I'm so excited, and I can't wait for you folks. If you have not heard Anya Lee's music yet, I want you to run, do not walk to your nearest DSP and begin to stream the wonderful songs. You have LOYL, which is Living on Your Love. You have You're the One. You're the one for me. And then we did a Christmas song, a cover of Whitney Houston's One Wish, which was amazing.
So fun.
That high note. Oh my gosh. Oops. And then now Back Again came out in January. We're here in March, and Simple is out, and we're very, very excited about that. So just an incredible amount of music already being made, and you just graduated our program, it seems like a month ago. So anyway, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You are lovely, and we love you. We love your music, and we love what God's done in your life.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, that's Anya Lee. Just such a great example of finding her mission, being willing to live into her mission through some pretty incredible circumstances that I hope that you will not have to get to the point of death or even beyond to decide that this is your time to take action. And that's one of the things I love about Anya Lee, is that she is willing to take action, because that's the make it or break it point. I mean, you can feel this calling, you can want to do this, till Jesus comes or you die, and not really do it. So I want to encourage you to take action, join NCS community. We've made it easier than ever. We're offering a 14-day free trial so that you can experience 2 whole weeks of our coaching sessions. You can experience the curriculum, you can meet people, you can just really begin to see behind the scenes and what we're really doing here at NCS. And we've also started offering monthly enrollment, or you can save a bunch of money if you join annually. We think you're going to love it. So go ahead and try that 14-day free trial if you haven't already. Download. I mean, this is the end of March, but it doesn't matter. We're going to be doing the NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge all year long. We're not giving up. This is it. And so we just know that you are ready. This is your time. Don't hold back. And reach out if there's anything we can do for you. We love you. We mean it. Go love the world in Jesus' name. We'll see you next time on Song Revolution. Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you got some value, please help us share the love. Leave a like and a share and a good review. Be sure to check out everything that we have to offer you at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. We'll see you next time.